thanks to all the members of Congress and Homeland Security Secretary. I'm not sure I'm going to introduce you all the way.
He's fine. Everything's just fine, people. There's nothing to worry about. I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. It is June 19th, 2024. That's right. It's Juneteenth, people. A very important day because it is 1 week to my birthday. That's right. That is why people celebrate Juneteenth, because on June 26th, it's Dave Rubin's birthday. Going to be 48 years old. I'm the oldest person you know, probably. Guys, we are live streaming on Rumble, YouTube, and local. Share, subscribe, tap that notification bell. And it's a very exciting day, also in honor of Juneteenth, because we have relaunched DaveRubin.store, and we have some spectacular July 4th merchandise for you. You can get the official Rubin Report tumbler. People love the tumbler, established 1776, because we believe in the original founding of America, and you can put coffee and tequila and other things in there. I'm not going to tell you what I'm drinking right now. Oh, that's smooth. That's DaveRubin.store. And of course, we have a post-game show for you at RubinReport.locals.com right after the program today. And the theme of the show today is that there are many ways to expose the lunacy and I would say the evil of the left. And one of the premier exposers of the evils and the lunacy of the left is my friend Douglas Murray, who I every time I see a video of him, I text him and I'm like, Douglas, I don't know that there's anyone else that I'm prouder to call a friend than you, because he just gets out there and gets in the scrum with like the worst of these people, and he just blows them apart time and time again. He just did a Munk debate against this guy, Mehdi Hasan. Now, Mehdi Hasan was a former MSNBC host. Do you realize, when I say former, do you realize how bad you have to be at your job? What a propagandist and a Hamas apologist you have to be to get fired from MSNBC, where they hire people like Reid and Rachel Maddow. Like, you gotta be pretty freaking racist, genuinely racist and evil and stupid. And yes, he got fired from MSNBC, and then he had the temerity, I suppose, to debate Douglas Murray. Not a good move. But anyway, that's gonna frame our show today, because there are people that are putting the good ideas out there and fighting for the values right here that were established in 1776 in this country. And then there is a whole bunch of people in this country and throughout the world that are pushing ideas like equity and Marxism and DEI and a whole bunch more that are here to destroy the ideas of 1776. And I think that if we stand up right now with this big election coming, then maybe we have a chance. But if we don't, I know we don't have a chance. So that is the theme of the show today. So let's dive right into it. A couple days ago, Douglas Murray partook in the Munk debate. These are debates, they do them every month or so, where they get two people on each side. They pose a question, and then they let the sides debate. And Douglas Murray just did a freaking bang up job. I should mention they were debating Israel. That comes as no Israel and Hamas and Zionism and anti-Zionism and all of this stuff. But let's just dive right into it. Go.
If you didn't throng the streets of this city or any other for the actual genocide going on in Sudan, not the one that Mehdi and Gideon pretend is happening, but the actual genocide going on in Sudan, if you didn't spend weekend after weekend doing that, but you did come out for the post-October the 7th protests, you're an anti-Semite. If, like Mehdi once sent a tweet condemning that, it doesn't give you quite enough smoke cover. You know, if you protested not a bit, didn't set up a tent when Bashar al-Assad was killing 6 times the number of people in a decade that Israel and all of its enemies have lost in 75 years of war, you are an anti-Semite. And I would just add one other thing. I know that media has tried to reframe the motion. I'm not going to allow it either. You know, maybe there is somebody in the world. Pakistan was invented, created as a state around the same time as Israel. I reckon that if this debate tonight was about Pakistan, Pakistan started a lot of wars, it suffered a lot of wars, it suffered a lot of casualties, caused a lot of casualties. But you know what? If somebody said, I think Pakistan should be abolished. They just don't have the right to a state, and although they had one set up for them many decades ago, we should abolish it. I think people would say, And then if the person said, but, oh, by the way, although I want to abolish that state, I have no problem with the Pakistani people. Please, of course you would.
There is just nobody better. And Douglas, as you know, dinner on me forever in eternity. It's interesting because one of the things that Douglas does at the top of that is he makes a point of calling Mehdi and people like him that have this obsessive focus on Israel anti-Semites. I don't on this show. I mean, you could probably actually count on one hand the amount of time that I call someone an outright anti-Semite. I would reserve that only for the true people who have an obsessive hatred of Israel and Jews. Now, I would include Mehdi Hasan in that. I think a lot of people are very confused about the history of the Middle East, about the history of the Jews and Israel and all of that stuff. And we'll get to more on how they got confused as the left took over the institutions. We'll get to that in a few minutes. But it's just a beautiful destruction of this nonsense. And I want to show you this infographic that was going around over the last couple days. Check this out. So the Arab League contains 22 countries, which total 481 million people and 5.08 million square miles of land. So what you're seeing there, obviously, is a large portion of Northern Africa and then a large portion of the Middle East. That's in contrast to Israel, which is obviously the one Jewish state. It has only 7.2 million people. It is the size of New Jersey. It's only a couple miles wide. It's crazy. And how many square miles of land? 0.00855 million. And we are to believe that those are the occupiers and those are the oppressors. Now, interesting, leave the graphic up for just a second, Connor. All of those red countries that you're looking at there, how's it going for anyone who's non-Muslim? How's it going for Jews in any of those places? Actually, there's basically no Jews in any of those places. How's it going for Christians in any of those places? Yeah, pretty much gone. Lebanon was a Christian country. Now it's mostly Muslim. Ask the Egyptian Coptic Christians how they're doing. Not particularly well. So everyone just has this whole thing backwards. Where is there apartheid? Well, there's apartheid in Jordan, meaning that the Hashemite kingdom has laws against the Palestinian population, and in Lebanon. Everything that they say is a lie and nonsense, but it's been pushed. It's been pushed through the universities and through the media. So as I mentioned, the way they do these Munk debates is there are two people on each side of this. The woman who was on the same side of Douglas Murray, I've never heard of her before this, and I absolutely would love to sit down with her. Her name is Natasha Hausdorff. Apparently she's not on Twitter, God bless her. And here she is just absolutely annihilating Mehdi Hasan. And for the purposes of this show, we'll call him Mehdi Hamas.
In 1917, over 100 years ago, Arthur Balfour, the British Foreign Secretary, a card-carrying anti-Semite, a man who had denounced the evils of Jewish immigration into the UK, a man who referred to Jews as an alien and hostile people, he issued his Balfour Declaration.
Balfour. We heard him quoted to you earlier, ladies and gentlemen. Well, let's be clear about that quote and what was changed, or at least misrepresented, because I think this is going to give a really strong indication for what is coming out of the opposition as a whole. We were told he'd referred to Jews as alien and hostile, in fact that he was therefore an anti-Semite. Well, I'm going to read you out the quote, and you make up your own minds. He said, "Mitigate the age-long miseries created for Western civilization by the presence in its midst of a body which it too long regarded as alien and even hostile, but which it was equally unable to expel or absorb."
Okay, this is getting a little into the minutia of the history of the Middle East, but it is worth noting because, of course, the Balfour Declaration, there was the British Empire, and the Balfour Declaration set aside land for the Jews. There were no people known as the Palestinians at that time. They were just Arabs that lived there in the British Mandate of Palestine. And clearly what Mehdi is doing is lying. He wants you to think that the man who, in essence, created the idea the original sort of idea for the modern state from a British perspective, that he was the anti-Semite. But of course, it is Mehdi who is the anti-Semite and the liar. And it's like, how do you fall into that trap? That's just a wonderful job there by Natasha, being ready to read the actual quote by Balfour. It's really just so incredible that, and by the way, Mehdi Hamas, he wrote a book. What's his book called? How to Win Arguments, right? I mean, the guy, it's ironic. That is a book that should not be read by anyone, or I guess it should be by people on his side. Anyway, the reason I'm showing you this as the framing of the show today is that these people who lie, Mehdi Hasan, a MSNBC guy who got fired and then shows up to these debates and still lies, these people have somehow ingrained themselves through their lies, through their manipulation, into almost all of our institutions. And that's why everything that we cover on this show every day feels often so out of whack with reality, because there is an entire machine designed to lying. Remember yesterday we led the show with the Jon Stewart thing, where Jon Stewart's basically saying, oh, there's no crime. Don't worry about the crime in blue states and blue cities. And then all you have to do is walk out your door in New York City or in Portland or Seattle or in San Francisco, et cetera, and see the reality. So what is really going on there? Well, that's what we'll get to on the other side. But let me talk to you guys about base spike detox trio. Guys, AstraZeneca recently admitted in court that its COVID-19 vaccine could result in life-threatening blood clots. The admission by AstraZeneca is the first of its kind and won't be the last after the damage we've seen these vaccines cause. The question is now, if you got the vaccine, what can you do about it? Fortunately, Dr. Peter McCullough and his team at the Wellness Company have been leading experts in treating vaccine injuries and long COVID since early on, and their research has shown that nattokinase, along with bromelain and curcumin derived from turmeric, has great potential in detoxing side effects. Dr. McCullough's published base spike team detox protocol combines powerful nattokinase, bromelain, and curcumin with incredible results in patient population. To date, tens of thousands of people have followed Dr. McCullough's protocol and taken base spike protein trio from the Wellness Company, and the results have been nothing short of miraculous. Purchasing each ingredient in Spike Support formula is pricey, but with the Wellness Company's unique formulation, you save 35%. In Dr. McCullough's own words, isn't it interesting? Natural substances to combat this man-made disaster. And it is interesting. A man-made virus and a man-made vaccine, both wreaking havoc on an unassuming population, but finally there's hope. Base spike detox trio, that was my Joe Biden impression, is the gold standard for combating spike protein. A daily regimen to help get you back to feeling your best. Reclaim your health by going to twc.health/Rubin and use code Rubin to save 15% and get free shipping. And now back to me. Okay, so what happens when there is a set of people like Mehdi Hamas who are in the media and in the culture, and they lie about everything, and they tell you that the good guys are the bad guys and the bad guys are the good guys, and boys are girls and Jews have nothing to do with Israel? When they just lie about everything, well, then you confuse an entire generation. So let's just throw to a 45-second or so compilation of some of the violence that we've seen on our college campuses lately. Okay, so that's just one little compilation of UT Austin, and obviously we could have done that at Columbia or NYU or a plethora of other schools, and they have no respect for law enforcement, and they think they can take over the university, and they think they can block police officers and close down buildings and vandalize and all of these things, and they do it while wearing the same masks that Hamas terrorists wear and everything else. So the question is, what would lead good American kids to come to these horrific conclusions? Now I want to jump to a video. I think we've shown you this once before, about 6 months ago. This is from a 1995 interview with Charlie Rose. This is social critic Camille Paglia. This is absolutely wonderful. She has, for years and years, for decades, she was ahead of what was going on college campuses. And listen to this, and just remember, this is basically 30 years ago, 29 years ago. Go.
How the universities have abandoned what should be the center of the university, which is learning. Okay, all right. Now, I'm on the record. My last book, Sex, Art, and American Culture, had a whole transcript of a multicultural course I taught at the university. Okay, with an Asian professor. Okay, I believe in enlightened multiculturalism based on scholarship.
What's the difference in unenlightened and enlightened multiculturalism?
Okay, I'm totally opposed to any politicized agenda in the classroom. Okay, I do not want this crappy melodrama being taught to our students that Western civilization is filled with evil patriarchs, and out there are the wonderful people of color. Okay?
Well, but I don't think anyone that I know of that believes that. Well, just think of what you just said.
The new historicists, listen, you don't know Stephen Greenblatt, the new historicists. Okay, I mean, my God, every word out of their mouth is about the evil of Western culture. You don't know how bad
Western
it is.
culture is evil,
Yeah,
and all
you don't know how bad
Asian
it is.
or African culture is unflawed.
These people in the who have control of the university's humanities departments now do not believe in great art. Okay, they do not. They believe the dead white European males are just are been canonized.
Well, I'd skip.
Man, the passion that she is speaking with, and Charlie Rowe is basically like, I don't know anyone like that, and she's like, you have no freaking idea what's going on. So her point there, of course, is that at the educational level, at the institutional level, when it comes to higher education, they are brainwashing generations of kids, and that was 30 years ago. Now, what did they do, of course, outside of the universities? Well, once they brainwashed a generation in the universities, teaching all of the wrong things, and America is evil, and our founding documents are evil, the very nature of the founding was based on slavery and not on freedom and everything else. Well, what else did they do? Then they started working into the corporate atmosphere, right? And how did they do that? They brought in neo-racism by calling it DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it was actually should have been called DIE, die, because that's really what they want for white people and people that are not brown or black. I have not shown you a clip of this yet, but I believe yesterday it came out. When I was in New York 2 weeks ago, I sat down with Chris Cuomo. Now, obviously, I have been quite critical of Chris Cuomo, but he did invite me on the show. It was at his apartment in New York City, and we got into it on a whole bunch of stuff. I hope you'll watch the full thing. I think we're going to put a couple of clips on our channel, but the full thing is on his channel. And we didn't pull any punches. We were respectful and everything else. But here I am trying to explain to him how the DEI left, the very same people that Camille Paglia is talking about at the educational layer, are the true racists who are basically taking all of the institutional power in America right now and using it against all of the norms that made this country wonderful.
And you know how he has been with racists and alt-right people. He has been very hands-off and very delicate in his treatment of them.
But I would say Joe Biden is far more in bed with racists than Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib.
Oh, you mean the racism?
But those are the real racists we have to worry about. Those are the racists who are ruining this city. Those are the racists who are taking over our institutions. Those are the racists that are going to make it. Why
isn't it the same as saying, you worry about Omar, the people worry about Matt Gaetz? Neither of them have any real power.
Well, she was on the Foreign Intelligence Committee. I mean, they kicked her off now, but I mean, she has a huge amount of power. I mean, look what she's amassed in Minnesota. The policies that they are trying to put forward to the country, you may not like their tactics and you may question their motives or whatever, but they are not trying to put in policies that would actually systemically put racism back into the country. The left and DEI and all of that, they are. That is actually...
But DEI, the point of DEI, you can talk about its execution, you can talk about degree and duration, but the whole point was to stop minorities from being excluded from places and institutions that matter in American advancement. That was the point.
I'm not sure that's what the point was. I think that would be a sort of, pardon the way I'm going to say this, I would say that would be a slightly naive way of looking at it. I think that these people that are pushing this stuff are way more nefarious maybe than you think.
What do you think they want?
I think they actually want to upend all of the meritocracy that America has been built on. I think they would gladly shred all of our founding documents. I think that's very clear. Listen to what they're saying at these campus protests. They're starting with Israel, but the United States is the big fish. I 100% know that Chris Cuomo as a father, 4 years from now when your son is out of college and he goes to get a job on Wall Street, or if he wants to be a doctor or whatever, does not want him to be discriminated on by the basis of the color of his skin, nor how much money and how famous his dad is and everything else. And that is what they literally have systemically put into the country. The Supreme Court just reversed affirmative action as it pertains to college admissions, which was absolutely right. You don't solve past discrimination by discriminating against Asians of today, right? You don't do that.
In your opinion, they would say that, no, we are just trying to make sure this group isn't discriminated against anymore. Not that you are.
But I don't think it's an opinion to say that well, I suppose it's an opinion at some level, but I think it's an empirical truth that discrimination based on immutable characteristics is bad.
But they're not saying no white. They're saying more other than white.
Doesn't matter. Thus you must discriminate.
Okay. So I hope, having watched that 2-minute clip, that you'll be interested in watching some more of that, because I think I really tried to show him some of the blind spots and some of the naivete, let's say, as it pertains to some of his opinions, because he even admitted he wouldn't want his kid is going to grow up rich, right? His kid was just going to college. That's why I mentioned that. His kid grew up rich and privileged and white, and his uncle was the governor, and his dad was a big TV star and everything else. So would he want, when his kid gets out of college, his kid to be, first off, to be discriminated on the way into college, and then to be discriminated against as it pertained to getting a job or getting into grad school or anything else? And of course the answer is no. But the point is, they took over the universities, then they took over the corporations, and then they took over they took over the entire culture, which is why when that famous quote that Andrew Breitbart said, that politics is downstream from culture, the reason we always seem to be losing politically is because we lost the culture. I think perhaps that's turning a little bit because people are not apologizing as much. More and more people are waking up. People are suddenly realizing Trump isn't racist and a whole bunch more. But now let's connect that to something else interesting, since we showed you a 1995 throwback. The #1 television show in 1995 in America was Seinfeld. And we've shown you a couple clips of Jerry Seinfeld lately, who suddenly has become political just because he's not brain dead. It's not even because he wants to be political. But this is not about Jerry Seinfeld. This is about one of the other cast members, Michael Richards, who of course played Kramer. And you may remember 18 years ago, I remember when I saw it, I was on vacation in Florida at my parents' house, when Michael Richards, who was a stand-up comic outside of being an incredible actor on Seinfeld, he said the N-word repeatedly in an act. He was doing it as a joke. It was poorly done, but it was basically one of the first incidences of cancel culture. And Michael Richards was basically destroyed and never heard of for the last almost 2 decades. Well, yesterday, he's got a new book out. He went on CBS Morning Show and sat down with Gayle King. And unfortunately, at this point, he still hasn't got the memo, because the memo is you need to stop apologizing. I'm sorry, it was Gayle King that he's, what? It was not Gayle King. Who did he sit down with? It wasn't Gayle King? It's not Gayle King. All right, I'll correct myself on the other side. Here's Michael Richards.
35 years ago, America fell head over heels for him. But for almost 2 decades, Richards has been out of the spotlight until today. He's releasing his brand new memoir. It's fittingly called Entrances and Exits. This is his first live television interview in many, many years. Michael Richards, good morning.
Good morning.
No, we're feeling a little nervous this morning, and that's understandable. Your first live interview. We haven't seen you in many, many years, and you're out now with a book. And we should just get this part, I think, out of the way, because the reason that you have been out of the spotlight was because of something that happened back in 2006, and it happened at a comedy club, and they called it a big racist rant, which it was, and you sort of disappeared from that point on. So I know you've done a lot of work since then. How are you different today than you were on that day?
Oh, the difference. Probably more aware. Of myself, anger, looking at it very closely. It's something that's always with us, certainly with me. Not as horrible as it was 18 years ago. Anger had a hold of me, and I canceled myself out.
You canceled yourself.
Take an exodus.
Yeah.
Get away from show business and see what the heck is going on inside me.
Yeah.
To have been so despicable that night.
Yeah.
And losing my cool.
Yeah.
And hurting.
Did you make amends? Do all the things that Did you feel like you said you were sorry and you did all the things that you should have done?
I think so.
Yeah.
All right, first off, people, I have to correct myself. That was not Gayle King and that was not CBS. I really dropped the ball on Juneteenth. The end of Dave Rubin is here. That was Hoda Kotb over on the Today Show on NBC. Of course, the real reason I'm showing you that is that he still is not getting the memo. Look, the moment that he had in the Comedy Club, I think it was the Laugh Factory in LA, and he's screaming the N-word because there was a table that was heckling him and whatever. We can all, if you can go back and watch a video, and everyone can debate whether he was being racist, he was trying to be funny about it, whatever. But to do the struggle session 18 years later, and he's not really saying much of anything there, but he sits there and it opens up by, you're nervous, and da-da-da. That struggle session, that is the thing. These people want you on your knees forever. Phoenix found a tweet. This is just from a random person, a guy by the name of Trey Isaac on Twitter. We thought it would be interesting to just show you, because actually random people on Twitter are just as interesting as the celebrity class and the pundit class too. I thought this was the perfect take on this. Never apologize to a mob, right or wrong. Mobs give up individual thinking to the collective. They have no conscience. They are drawn to vulnerability and the thrill of destruction. Get away until they move on to the next target. And I think that that's largely right. Do you think that anyone who was relishing the destruction of Michael Richards or any of the people who have been unjustly canceled over the years, do you think that the mob is ever like, you know what, I actually do accept the apology? No, they're like locusts. They just move to the next pasture to eat away as much stuff as they can there. I would say that my slight edit on that is something that Jordan Peterson often says, which is never apologize if you're wrong. You can apologize, never apologize if you were correct, right? But if you did do something wrong, you can apologize. Apologizing to the mob, though, doesn't work. Apologizing to the specific person you wronged, that could potentially work, but that's just kind of whittling things away. But of course, what this really is about is that they have endlessly bludgeoned us with false cries of racism. And oddly, as they have done this, now they are turning their own race. They accused everybody who thought a little bit differently than they did of racism. And now there's something interesting happen, and we'll connect it to another story that we've been talking about a lot lately, which is this Caitlin Clark WNBA situation. This is the star of stars, the woman that the league has been looking for 30 years, the Michael Jordan of female basketball. She's selling out arenas. They have never had a star like her. She is capturing the imagination of quite literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of young girls all over the world, and I'm sure some boys too, well-deserved. But the media is just relentlessly going after her. So here's race baiter Joy Reid with another race baiter, Jemele Hill. So Joy Reid of MSNBC, Jemele Hill, ESPN, just taking out Caitlin Clark. And of course, it's because of her race.
What I don't like about how many of the men with these platforms are shaping the conversation is that they're reducing it to pettiness, to jealousy. They're playing on stereotypes and tropes that are said about women in general, but especially Black women. And this is a Black women-led league. And to me, that has really devalued the conversation we need to be having.
You know, somebody very smart said to me recently that the challenge with women's basketball is that most of the stars are Black, but most of the great players are Black, but most of the stars are white, whether it's who's getting awarded by the ESPN, whether who's getting noticed by the magazines. And like you said, if there were charter flights, Brittany Griner would not have ended up in a gulag, right? These ladies are flying commercial and they're not treated as like the men are. How much of this do you think, though, is the marketing potential of a Caitlin Clark? Because quite frankly, this is a league that is largely, as you said, largely Black women. It's also largely LGBTQ. She's a white heterosexual woman. And so if you're trying to get white dads to go spend their money and buy season tickets, she seems like a marketing opportunity. How much of it is that?
I don't know why people find that to be controversial to think about that. I mean, we know that marketing is about ability, talent, all those things. And nobody's saying that Caitlin Clark doesn't have those things. It's like she's incredibly talented. She's broken record. She's playing a playing style that people love, that is very representative of what we see today, particularly on the men's side. But yes, it helps that she's white, straight in from Iowa.
There is just so much evil there. They are destroying the thing they purport to love, particularly in Jemele's case, right? She became an ESPN anchor or analyst because I suppose she loved basketball and had a particular love of women's basketball. And now she is burning it to the ground. Meanwhile, a woman like Sage Steele, who is like the pinnacle of professionalism, no longer works at ESPN because she would not race bait like this. The idea, they're sort of accusing ESPN of being racist, which is hilarious. ESPN has gone so woke and their ratings are reflective of that. And the idea that ESPN is not giving awards to black women or something like that is insane. Also, that the WNBA players don't get charter flights like the men do because nobody was watching. There was no money to charter the flight. So they had to fly commercial, those poor girls. And by the way, the chick who got stuck in Russia, she did break the laws of Russia because you can't bring weed into Russia. But every single thing they do, they accuse the other analysts, the white male analysts, of being petty and jealous. And it's like, you guys are petty and jealous when it comes to Caitlin Clark. And finally, Jemele Hill calls it, what did she say? A black women-led league. Nobody thinks of sports like this except you race-baiting buffoons. Never once, when I did watch the NBA, did I ever think it was a black-led league. You never thought it's a black male-led league. No, everyone had their own particular favorite player. It was a Michael Jordan-led league for a long time. It was a LeBron league for a long time. It was a Steph league for a long time because those were the best players along the way. But they have just whittled us down to the most unimportant nonsense. And I want to show you a video we showed you last week. This is from the great Erin Wexler. I just absolutely adore her. And she just nails exactly the BS that you just saw there from Joy Reid and Jemele Hill.
Okay, here's what no one's willing to say about Caitlin Clark not being chosen for the U.S. Olympic basketball team. Everyone is asking, oh, how could this happen? I know exactly how it happened. It's because the biggest threat to women is other women. When men are successful, guys want to be friends with them. They'll wear their jersey. They'll get the same haircut. They might even dress like them. Men try to actually surround themselves with more successful men. But women, they don't see a popular, successful woman as someone to be friends with, someone to elevate themselves with. No. She is a target. She is to be taken down. And in classic female form, they don't like that this new girl is getting all the attention. Also, don't even get me started on the fact that she happens to be white. We'll cross that bridge another day. You think this would be such an obvious decision, but no, silly. And I would just like to say that women who are always complaining about how men don't support women's basketball. Women don't support women's basketball. Name one girl you've ever seen wearing a WNBA jersey. And that is why we can't have nice.
That is far better analysis of what's going on with the WNBA right now than anything you are hearing on ESPN or MSNBC. So great job, Erin Wexler. I want to jump back, though, to something with Joy Reid, because this woman is completely insane. And I think it's important, and I always refer to MSNBC as a televised mental institution. When you understand that these people, that Joe Scarborough, when he says that Joe Biden is more mentally fit than he's ever been and more mentally fit than I am, that's what he said. It's like, you have to understand they are paid to lie. Because if they weren't paid to lie, then they would be brought into an office every day after their show and be hit with a ruler. Somebody would be like, you lied about these 10 things. Whoosh. But that isn't what happens. So when you understand they are actually paid to promote lies, Rachel Maddow paid to promote COVID lies, then it starts becoming funnier and everything else. But this one's just spectacular. Here's Joy Reid, and as you know, it's the summertime now. We're Juneteenth. And there's a meme that goes around these last couple of years about white boy summer. White boy summer is just kind of frat boy summer, that some dudes are going to drink some beer, and I guess they like White Claws, and I don't know, what else are you guys doing? You guys are like the frat boys around here? What do? You what? You like Coors? You don't know. Anyway, it's nothing. It's just this meme of nothingness, of just like guys doing stuff. But of course, if a bunch of white people are doing something, what is it? You got it. It starts with an R. It ends with a T. I bet you can figure out what it is. Here's Joy Reid.
That right there is right-wing Pizzagate conspiracy theorist Jack Posobiec unfurling a flag reading White Boys Summer, while hats with the same slogan were tossed to the screaming audience. For those who may not remember, and why would you, White Boy Summer was originally a line from a viral 2021 social media rant by legendary actor Tom Hanks's lesser-known son, Chet Hanks. But it wasn't long before the thirsty far right and white supremacists decided it was time to cancel everyone's fun and culturally appropriate the cultural appropriation for their own purposes, using the phrase in their online memes to try to attract unsuspecting white youth to their cause. But Jack Posobiec sure knew what he was doing when he strutted across that stage with that flag, because he's a professional fascism-curious right-wing troll. And at this stage, White Boy Summer is no longer a funny Chet Hanks meme. It's an explicit white supremacist message, no different than when Trump says immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country, or that blacks like him because he's a criminal, or that black-run cities like Baltimore, Chicago, or Detroit, or any city run by a black person is like living in...
Cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo. All right, that's all the analysis I have for that. That woman is completely bananas. Interestingly, though, you may have noted she wasn't wearing her normal wig. She normally wears a wig of it's a blonde wig, which seems like cultural appropriation to me. And you might be watching that, going, "What happened to Joy Reid's wig?" I believe that she's not wearing the wig because of the oppressive summer heat.
But we begin tonight with the lucrative politics of climate collapse and the greed that is literally letting our country burn. Today, millions of Americans from Iowa to Maine are suffering through heat warnings, watches, or advisories. Cities across half of the country, like Chicago, St. Louis, Indianapolis, Detroit, Philly, and now New York, are hitting temperatures exceeding 90 degrees Fahrenheit, though it feels closer to 100. Many of these cities could experience heat indexes hitting 105 degrees by Sunday. These increasingly oppressive hot days aren't a coincidence. They are the predictable impact of the climate crisis. And they're not just an inconvenience, they're also killing us at higher rates.
The oppressive heat, guys, it's 90 degrees in New York in June. Holy shit. It's 90 degrees in Chicago and Philly and St. Louis. I love how she only picks Democrat-run cities. Guess what? It's 90 degrees here. It's not, actually, it's a little less than 90 today here in Miami. We're having a very mild day here. It's all nonsense. Everything that they do is nonsense. But to connect this to what we were talking about earlier with Chris Cuomo, what I was trying to show him is that, yes, you can say the right has their crazies, and they obviously do, except the left crazies are the ones that are enacting policies and have institutional power. The only reason she's going off on climate change and the oppression of heat and everything is because she wants AOC's Green New Deal, because it's a giant upending of our economy, because she hates capitalism. That is just the truth. They have the institutional power to do all of the crazy things that they are often trying to do. Would you like evidence of it? You would? Okay, well, we've got Secretary of Health and Human Services, Javier Becerra. Here he is explaining that climate change mostly affects minorities.
We know that lived experience cannot be bought. We know that lived experience is priceless in letting you connect with and encourage people to participate. And so we're not going to wait for folks to come and say, "I'd like to participate in your clinical trial for diabetes or for cancer." We're going to go where you are to find out how we can be helpful. I could go on and on. We established a climate change and health equity office at the Department of Health and Human Services, not the EPA, at HHS. We established an environmental justice office, not in the Department of Justice, but in HHS. Because we know that the folks who are hit first and worst when it comes to climate degradation are in the minority communities, are in the low-income communities. So why should we wait until they're suffering, as we've seen in some communities in my state of California, where they can't even get tap water that's clean? Or in Flint, Michigan, where you don't even want to turn on the tap because you're going to get lead that your kids will drink. Why should we wait till government hears enough and solves it? Let's go where they are and do it now.
Well, Becerra, I'll give the devil his due. You are right about something. California blows. That's why they have problems there. Michigan largely blows, at least the parts that you're talking about, because it has had Democrat run forever. Democrat run cities generally kind of suck. So you're right about that. But climate change is affecting black and brown people. It's just drivelous nonsense. And by the way, when he says health equity, which is a phrase you're going to hear more and more of, that should be the scariest thing to you, because equity, when they say health equity, what they are going to have to do is make everyone equally sick. And they don't mean everyone, because the elites will always not be that sick. But that is the only way they will do this. Like, if you see a bunch of sick brown people, and you see some healthy white people, what they're going to try to do is make those white people sicker. That's what they are trying to do. They want to bring down a certain set of people while purporting to bring up a certain set of people. That is exactly what they are doing. And also, they don't want you to own anything. So they will do whatever they have to do and rejigger the economy however they have to do it so that you won't own things, so that you will eat less meat, so they will fly on their private planes and you'll be stuck flying twice a year on Spirit. That is the plan. Do you have evidence of that, Dave? I do. Check this out from the World Economic Forum. This is a young global leader. Her name is Ida Auken. And here she is pushing the idea that we shouldn't own cars anymore. We should just share everything because sharing is caring.
We tend to think of in the paradigm of yesterday. So first we would say, here's a car. Let's put an electric engine into it. Oh, let's make this car self-driving. But if it's the same car in a road that is completely congested, it doesn't matter whether this car is autonomous or electric or whatever, you still don't get anywhere. You just get stuck in traffic. So this is why we talk about mobility, because actually, if you can get people to share a car, you can take out, a lot of cars in the streets. I think it's Singapore where they looked at how they could bring it down to about 40% of the cars if we would use them smarter. And the interesting thing about technology is that it makes sharing easy and fun and not annoying. It used to be a little bit difficult to share. You would have to go in somewhere in the other end of town and get a key. And that's not what you want to do if you want to take your car. But if you can just use your neighbor's car because you have a smartphone and an app and you don't even need to know the neighbor to get into his car, or if you can find ways of carpooling, and this is what technology helps you do, it's much easier and much more fun to share. And you start then thinking completely different about transport and traffic.
How about no? How about I'm going to own my car and I don't give a flying fuck if you have a car or how you get anywhere, okay? I'm going to take care of my family and the people I care about in my community. And if you don't want a car, don't have a car. And if you want to share a car with someone, share a car with someone. But the point is, when I talk about that institutional layer, this is where those ideas start bubbling, and that no one will have anything and you can share a car. Connor, you own a car? What kind of car you got? Ford Bronco, pretty good over there. What do you got? BMW. You got a Tesla. Man, I am overpaying you people with these fancy cars over there. The point is they own their own cars. They make money and make decisions with it. Do you just let Connor drive around in your car whenever he wants? No, you don't. No, because you have gum in the car or whatever else. It's fine. But there is a plan to make all of this happen. Do you remember this one? This is an old gem. It's an oldie but a goodie. From the World Economic Forum. This is from November of 2016. This was one of the things that really alerted people to the intentions of the WEF. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy. This is how our world could change by 2030. How about no? How about I'm going to own my car? I'm going to own my home. I'm going to own my clothes. I don't care what you do, but you cannot have my stuff. But of course, it's not just the physical things that they want to take away from you. Actually, they are planning to take away some of your resources as well. Check this out. This is from a Twitter account called Level CO, which is a Dutch Twitter account. Degrowth propaganda is everywhere you look now. From Dutch News Today, and obviously they're showing you a Dutch article there, quote, the Netherlands will have to get rid of the idea that electricity is available to everyone at all times, quote, end quote. They want us to go back to 1890. James Lindsay, who's obviously been on the show many times, he quoted that and said, the Netherlands will have to get rid of the idea that electricity is available to everyone at all times. Do you understand what these communists are trying to do to our countries? So you will live in a Western society. For those of you that have not been to Holland, to the Netherlands, a funny episode of Seinfeld where George is trying to understand what the difference between Holland and the Netherlands and the Dutch people are. It's all the same. And it was a city, Amsterdam was a city built by dikes. Do you guys know that? Fully built by dikes. That's true, yeah. Google it. The results are not as exciting as you might think. The point is, they are setting everyone up. We will take your cars away, and you won't own your home, and you'll just be a forever renter, and you'll somehow be happy. Oh, and we're gonna have to shut your electricity off every now and again. Oh, and we're gonna shut your water off every now and again. Oh, and you'll have intermittent internet. Oh, and sometimes you'll have access to your money, and sometimes you won't. And it is all a complete lie. We have all the resources we need on this beautiful planet, and then people like Elon Musk will get us to other planets at the same time. I thought you might find this interesting in light of all this global warming drivel, and that's really all it is. The people that are pushing it are the same exact people that push all of the other lies that are constantly debunked now. This is video of geologist Ian Plimer destroying, just absolutely obliterating this man-made global warming nonsense.
I don't have opinions. I have demonstrable facts. These facts are validated and these facts are repeatable. Fact number one, no one has ever shown that human emissions of carbon dioxide drive global warming. Never been shown. And if it could be shown, then you would have to show that the 97% of emissions, which are natural, do not drive global warming. Game over. We are dealing with a fraud. It's a scientific fraud from day one.
I suspect it is a scientific fraud. I am not a climatologist. I am not going to pretend that I am. But I know that there is a certain set of people who have institutional power, as we've been illustrating, whether it's the universities or the media, that lie about everything. And then there's a bunch of politicians who just want you to adopt their policies, which somehow always benefit them and take more from you. And they are now doing this in the name of climate change. And largely these people, not only are they're sort of like bad people and they have bad ideas and they're communists, and they're not very pleasant or anything else, but some of them are actually completely insane. One of them is squad member Cori Bush. This woman is nuts. And she went on PBS and claimed that she once touched a woman and healed her tumors. Yes, really. We're going to show it to you right now. And note this is just wonderful journalism by the interviewer.
You're a pastor.
Yes.
You write about healing through faith. At one point, you came across a woman with, quote, several visible tumors on her torso. Tell me what happened.
So at that time, I, along with a group of friends, we would go out on the street and just meet with people and pray with people and offer them food. And this lady came to us and she had these tumors. I mean, she wanted us to like feel them. And I just remember I put my hand on her and my hand just began to move. And the lumps that were there were no longer there. And she was so happy and she like went on about her day. And I never saw her again.
So you think the tumors disappeared?
I do.
I can't take much more of this. So that woman is in Congress, hopefully not much longer. There's a chance she's going to lose come November. But she's claiming that she touched a woman and the tumors disappeared right in front of her. And the woman went along her day. I mean, these are the same people. I guess that's science. The same science they're using to trick you into thinking that man-made climate change is real. But okay, she's just a member of Congress. The stupidity can't be leaking all the way up to the office of the presidency and the vice presidency, could it? Well, it could because it's Pride Month, which means that they're doing this over at the White House with Kamala Harris.
Hi. Can we talk? Come on in.
Welcome today, everyone, to the White House. I'd like to briefly answer some questions. Go ahead, I'm ready.
JVN.
Oh, yes.
Is it true that is all your natural hair?
Yes, I can confirm that this is not a wig.
Follow-up
Thank you so much for
question.
asking.
Do
No
you use your own
extensions.
products?
I do use JVN hair, actually exclusively for over 4 years. Next question.
All right, so that's what's going on over at the White House in honor of Pride Month. I mean, just absurd. That guy apparently says he's trans. I mean, he's obviously a dude in a dress, but he's saying he's trans too. You would think that a woman or someone that cared about women's lib and feminism and all that would be annoyed about a dude in a dress pretending to be a woman doing that. But it's just all, and the way that Doug, right, Kamala's husband, Doug, he stands there and he's like, what the F is going on here? And he's just such a little beta nothing. Anyway, Kamala Harris is not the best of the best. She's not the brightest of the brightest. And the Trump campaign put out an ad illustrating just that.
talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs. And there is such great significance to the passage of time.
So the importance of community banks is they are, as they are called, they're in the community, led by members of the community. They are people who understand the capacity of the community, the needs of the community, the culture of the community.
Space is exciting.
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day. Every day it is time for us to agree that there are things and tools that are available to us to slow this thing down.
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been, you know?
The spinning brain. The spinning brain at the end. I honestly believe it is quite possible that her speechwriter is one of us. Like, they literally are writing the trolliest things ever and putting it in front of her, and she reads it, and they're like, can you believe this bitch is reading that straight up? Anyway, let's continue to some other crazy people, because over on The View, they had, I love when worlds of lunatics collide, and that's what happened on The View yesterday. So they had Rachel Maddow on, yes, that's right, The View, MSNBC, they've combined into one crazy thing, and they're freaking out. They are freaking out because they realize that Biden is going down, that Kamala, she's got a different type of brain damage, that people are waking up to the neo-racism, that people don't like their kids being sexualized, all of the stuff. So what do they have? You know, it's fear. It's fear. And what is Donald Trump going to do to women like Joy Behar and Rachel Maddow? We'll find out.
So you said recently that you thought that you, as an outspoken critic, could be a target yourself. Some people think that sounds overdramatic, but I'm right there with you. I think that he is so vindictive that he will go after, however he has to, through the IRS maybe, or even through sponsors to get us off the air maybe, or you. Yeah. How seriously should we be taking that?
Well, so I was asked, am I worried about me? And my answer was, I'm worried about all of us. I'm no more worried about me than I am worried about everybody in the country. I think it's bad to have somebody saying, give me as much power as you can in this country so I can use it to go after other Americans. So I can use it to go after these subhuman internal enemies, and I'll destroy them. Like, that's just not a good system for anybody. And I don't think anybody's safe if that's the sort of basis on which he wants to get more power. I think that if he decides that he's going to go after you or me or anybody who's well known, we have resources. We'll likely be fine. But I think there's a pattern where he picks out individual people and effectively terrorizes them. There's Stormy Daniels wearing a bulletproof vest to get into the courthouse.
Once you have political violence, you have fascism following that.
Wait a minute, Stormy Daniels who's using a bulletproof vest? It's not like she's ever been shot in the face before. Applause, please, guys. Okay. Everything that they just claimed Donald Trump is going to do to them, these narcissistic harpies, is what they are doing to him. It is what the system is doing to him by trying to put him in jail right now, right? Also, just because you become president, you don't become king. He wouldn't just magically have the power, and I will take Rachel Maddow off the air, which would be a gift, honestly. I don't think it should be forced, but it would be a great gift to America if that happens at some point. And of course, what really this is all about is that they fear that this guy might institute some policies that would be pro-America policies, because that's what we had under him, especially pre-COVID. And they don't really like America that much. And this is one of the spots where I think Trump can figure out a way to shine. If he doesn't make it about the people, but meaning those people right there, Joy Behar and Rachel Maddow, if he can get above that and make it about righting the ship, getting this country in order, that is the answer to all of it. This is just a short clip we showed you before, but I think this is the tagline. This is the line that will show people we can get to the promised land.
I don't care about the revenge thing. I know they usually use the word revenge. Will there be revenge? My revenge will be success.
I got to tell you guys, I know he can be a bit of a bullshit artist and sarcastic and everything else, but I really believe that. I don't think he cares about revenge in that sense. I think he believes, and it's exactly what he said there, and you can feel it, that it's right and true, that if he became president and started righting the ship, that he would look around and go, who cares what Rachel Maddow, yes, I'm going to spend my days jailing Rachel Maddow and booting The View from on air. No, The View will have better ratings than ever. Joy, ultimately your job will be easier than ever because you'll be able to complain about him every day, claim you're under attack and you're about to be canceled, and the country will be doing better, and your 401k will be going up and everything else. And by the way, New York City, where you live, will probably be cleaned up a little bit because there'll be some residual stuff even into the blue states and blue cities. So I think that is right, and I think that's the right message for Trump. I don't care about revenge. Success is revenge. Showing them there is a way to do it that is not what these people have done, and that will not wrought the destruction that they have done on us for generations now across institutions, as we've been laying out for the last hour. And then I would say, guys, it's not just Trump that has to do it. All of us have to be prepared to be part of the fight. Jordan Peterson, ladies and gentlemen.
I had my university salary. I had a clinical practice, and I had a business. And that wasn't accidental. You know, I knew from my clinical practice that if you wanted to say what you had to say, you had to put yourself in a position where you couldn't be easily taken out by the mob or the tyrant. And then I would say, well, if you're not in a position where you can afford to say what you have to say, then that's an indication that you haven't positioned yourself optimally existentially, you haven't positioned yourself optimally in life. Your foundation is too weak. And so, you know, maybe it'll take you 3 years to fix that, you know, so that now you're grounded firmly so that a casual objection from your boss or even being fired isn't going to take you out. It's not like that's easy. But I mean, abiding by the truth isn't easy. The only thing, but it's a lot more preferable than abiding by falsehood. That's the problem, right? Of course, abiding by the truth isn't easy, obviously. But, you know, what sort of devil do you let into your head if you abide by falsehood? And some of that might be just not saying what you have to say. And that's not just, you know. Mostly we regard sins of commission as more egregious than sins of omission. You know, an outright lie is worse than just failure to say what you know to be the truth. But when enough people are silent about things they know they have something to say about, then you have a tyranny. And so, well, we haven't sorted through all this, you know, very well in our society, but I think it's morally incumbent on all of us to set up our lives so that we can afford to tell the truth.
God, it never gets old, no matter how many clips I show of him, no matter how many times I've heard them. But that's the point. Set yourself up properly. And it might take years because you have to do financial work, you have to do physical work, you have to figure out your relationships with your friends and your family and all of those things. But if you don't do that and you just start not saying the truth or not saying what you think, and then more of us stop saying what we think, that's when tyranny comes in. And doesn't that kind of feel like where we're at right now, right? Everyone knows there's something wrong with Joe Biden. Everyone knows that you can't have an open border like we had and have a country. Everyone sees the problems, but we're all just kind of like, oh, I'm not exactly sure. So we need more and more people to prepare themselves properly for the fight that's to come. And if we do that, we will win. We'll have America back, and it'll all be pretty damn good. Guys, and actually my interview that I did last week that's up right now with Riley Gaines, who is one of the spectacular voices right now of fighting the system and saying, oh, girls swimming is for girls, not boys. She's a perfect example of everything Jordan just laid out there. That is up right now, full things ad free. Reminder, you can get the new Rubin Report Tumblr. Rubin Report, the American flag, established 1776, just in time for July 4th. We've also got the fishing cap, the baseball cap, and a whole bunch more. DaveRubin.store, and we got a post-game show, RubinReport.locals.com, in about 30 seconds. Adios, as they say.
Well, the Soys are back in town, blocking roads, no oil protesters, and this guy's smoothly transitioning through, and it looks like he's not going to move or budge, but booyah, gets a love tap from the ass of the car. The car's like, kiss my ass, you freaking soy boy. So stunning, so brave, no logic, no reason, brain dead as hell, and right here you can just see the guy thought he was going to be tough. He's like, now I'm going to stand my ground. I'm going to stand my ground. And booyah, right to the dome. Obviously not ludicrous cam worthy, but what the hell.
Get out the way. Get out the way, bitch. Get out the way.